You could have been anywhere, but you're right here listening to Chop It Up. And I'm grateful. You know, my goal is that you hear something today that inspires you to either want to stop because it's not working and it hasn't been working for a long time, or it inspires you to want to keep going because it feels good. You know you're on the right track and we got your back. If you or someone you love is struggling with an addiction, there's a number at the end of the episode. Call it. Give yourself a break. Now let's chop it up. So when you use the term well rounded, you're actually talking about my guest. She has over 30 years experience as a social worker, a community organizer. She even hosts her very own podcast, radio show called Boiling Point, WAIF. Check her out. Yeah, there's more. She's the mother of a special needs adult child, and she's in recovery. So give it up for my guest on Chop It Up, Michelle D. Okay, so if you could talk about a moment that you knew it was time to seek help. Do you remember like how it looked, how you felt that day?
Yes, I definitely remember. And it was, sometimes people hit that bottom and then they seek help. Well, in my story, I was sort of forced to seek help, of course. So in that moment, I was actually already in treatment. And I was sitting on the edge of one of those beds, those treatment beds. And I was looking out the window and I had this thought that I could string some sheets together and scale down the side of the building and escape the treatment center. But my next
Wow.
thought was, where would I go? Like, I had absolutely nowhere. I had burned every bridge and I had absolutely nothing except like a couple garbage bags full of, I don't know, books or something. I don't even know, nothing of real value. So it was in that moment where I said, you know what? I need to just be still and accept this help.
Mm.
And it was like a surrender moment. That was the
Yeah.
moment where I was like, okay, it's over. The
Wow.
run is over.
Wow.
Yeah, it
Wow.
was hard too. Because
Absolutely.
my natural instinct, of course, was to run. Like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this.
Hmm.
But it was over.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you did. Glad you
Yeah.
did. You know, which is harder for you, do you think? Forgiving yourself or others?
Huh. I think others. I have to say I'm a Scorpio, so we hold grudges for like decades. So that's an area where, yeah, I would say harder to forgive others.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. What lie were you believing about yourself? Do you know, like, some of the things that we tell ourselves that are not necessarily true,
Mm.
but we kind of believe them because that's how we've been operating for a while.
So what lie? Say it again.
What lie were you believing
Oh,
about yourself? That's
yeah.
not true.
Right. Wow, that's a good one. What lie was I believing about myself? This sounds kind of like surface, but I'm just going to say it. I don't know if this happened to other people, but when you're like, I feel like fat, right? Like I feel overweight. And you're like a young person. And then, 20 years later, you look back at a picture and you're like, actually, I looked really good back then. Right now, I'm actually fat. No, but my point is that like we have these like self-talk and like these things we tell ourselves, like I'm so this or I'm so that. And it's not until we get older and have some hindsight, like,
Right,
that wasn't true at all,
right, right,
and that's
right,
one of those areas where I've always felt like had a lot of self-image, issues, like never feeling
right,
good enough or less than and all that stuff. And then you
right.
look back and you're like, that
Yeah,
wasn't even it. Like actually,
yeah.
so with my weight stuff, yeah, that's happened to me a lot.
Oh, you
Yeah.
know what? Thank you. Thank you for sharing that because You're not by yourself.
Yeah.
I bet a lot of people, including myself, can relate to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you. Yeah. Well, wait. What was the hardest part about getting clean?
Wow. The hardest part about getting clean. I think it was that part in our message where we talk about, we can stop using, we lose the desire to use, and the third part is finding a new way to live.
Correct.
Right? So the stopping, well, of course, that was hard. The miracle of not feeling the need to use after a while, that was amazing. The hard part, though, was figuring out what I was going to do with myself in my life as a clean person, a person in recovery. That was like a hard thing to figure out. Like, because my whole life had always been around the getting and using and finding ways and means to get more, of course.
Wow.
So it's like, okay, well, now what?
Yeah.
Right? And I tell my sponsees nowadays, the interesting part of early recovery is figuring out what do you like? What kind of food do you like? What kind of music do you like? What's your favorite color? What kind of clothing do you like to wear?
Yeah.
Because all of that stuff is so, when using is all that matters, all of that stuff becomes not important. And you just kind of, like a chameleon, you just blend in with whoever you're around just so you can manipulate and get more, right? At least for me, right?
Right.
So I had to be like, okay, yeah, what music do I like to listen to? Or what kind of things do I like to do? What kind of hobbies? I mean, hobbies? Like what?
Yeah.
So while it was also exciting, it was hard too, because it's really, reinventing yourself and figuring out who you are. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah. Wow. What's a regret? Do you have any?
Oh yeah.
Can you talk about them?
A regret. My first thought when you asked me that question is coming out of a place of someone in long-term recovery, right? Meaning what we start to internalize this thing in our life where we don't look at things anymore as beating ourselves up about it. It's more about lessons. And okay, I learned from that, or what did I get from that I'm not going to do again. So that's the beautiful thing about recovery, is that we change regret into something positive.
Yes, absolutely.
So some people would say, oh, I got a whole list of regrets. I actually don't, because of course there's things I've done that I'm not proud of, but again, it's not the type of weight on me where it feels like, oh, if only, if I had just done that different.
Yeah.
And that is the blessing of recovery.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
I do regret getting that 4th speeding ticket a couple months ago because my insurance rates have gone way up. But, stuff like that.
Of course. Of course. Little stuff like that. So I know you have to have one. What's your daily habit or routine?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love routines. I have to say, I have a son, Michael, and Michael is, he's got a lot of special needs. He's in a wheelchair. He's nonverbal. And he's a trip, but he's really into routine, right? And I always make this joke. He's got kind of like OCD a little bit, and I don't know where he got that from,
well,
which is a total joke because
both
his parents, have that. But why I mention that is that my life with my adult son, we live together, obviously, is very routine oriented. And part of that is my discipline as a recovering addict, and also because his personality, he just feels more comfortable with routine, right? So we have a pretty regimented life, and a big part of my routine in lately has been really focused on health.
Okay.
And that's because, I'm getting older and
Absolutely.
like
Absolutely.
being real conscious of, vitamins and eating healthy food and not
Mm-hmm.
eating too much, just all the things around health. My back, I had a whole bunch of back issues. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm supposed to be doing these stretches, which I don't do. So yeah, a lot of it's been focused on just kind of like taking care, of myself and my son. And like a big thing for me is like my house. Like I want it to be a place of, some serenity. And
Of
for me,
course.
like having stuff everywhere, like
Yeah.
stresses me out.
Absolutely.
So like clutter, like kind of drives me crazy.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, how did my house get like this? I'm never here. And it's just crap everywhere. So like I'm real big on like tidying up all the time and then like
Yeah.
cooking and then going, I mean, just everything. It's busy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but I do try and carve out some time for, of course, we got to do the recovery thing. We got to. So
A
that
must.
is first, right? So, with my little calendar, meeting attendance, right,
Mm-hmm.
must come first. So the meetings are in the calendar, and those
Okay.
happen, no question. They just
Okay.
happen,
Okay.
and then everything kind of goes out from
Great.
there.
Great. Perfect. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
What brings you joy?
Well, lately I have found a lot of joy in. I love traveling. I used to say, for some of us, I know for me, when we're using really heavy, our world becomes really small. For me, it was like,
Wait a minute.
so, or in early recovery, I've talked about this where our world becomes really small, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and for some of us, so small, like for me, like the bathroom, like that's as far as we're going today, and maybe outside to get one more. And so, as we, stay clean and we are able to plan things and do things, I think the experience for addicts going to conventions is really important
Yeah.
early on because for some of us, it's our first experience traveling, getting out of town, experiencing other places. And then over time, you build your confidence up because for some people, travel is scary, right? Like, I
Yeah.
don't know anybody there. I don't know what I'm doing. But I'm telling you, have courage and do it because it is one of the best things that's brought me joy
Yeah.
is the opportunity to get out and see the world, man.
Yeah.
And I have traveled. I took me and my son in a van, and we drove across the entire country for like a month. We lived in my van, me and my adult son in a wheelchair. Yes, we did. And
Wow.
I went all the way out to Washington State, all the way down the state of California, all the way across the bottom. And I've done that 3 times now. And
Wow.
I'm telling you, this country, you have no
Wow.
idea if you don't get out there and you just do the flyover and go New York, California, New York. No, there are
Wow.
places in this country that, I mean, and that's the joy part, right? Of being clean too and experiencing the world and having those peak experiences. Like I went to the Grand Canyon and I just started crying.
Yeah, me too.
Partly because I was scared shitless because I'm afraid of
Yeah.
heights.
Yeah, me
And I was
too.
just like, what can I grab onto? And my son in a wheelchair starts driving right to the edge, right? I mean, there's a little wall and stuff, but I was like,
Yeah.
let go! And everybody probably thought I was crazy, like all these
Yeah.
people from China and like France, and there's people from all over the world there. And, just those experiences of those feelings of like total joy. And
Mm-hmm.
you cannot get that unless you're clean
I love it.
and do those joy experiences. Those are,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's not just about the outside, it's the inside too, isn't it?
oh, yeah.
So, what have you changed your mind about lately? Have you
Yeah.
changed your mind about something lately?
Good question.
Thank you.
And yes, something easily comes to my mind. And as a person in recovery, some of us who have been around a long time, we kind of are traditionalists, right? Like, this is how it used to be and this is how it should be. And back in my day, all this you hear people say.
Right.
And for us in recovery, there's been a lot of changes. for recovering addicts.
Mm-hmm.
And, one of those is like medical assisted treatment, they call it MAT or whatever. Like when I got clean and I first came around, it was just methadone. That was the only other option. And
Mm-hmm.
fortunately, I had heard enough horror stories where I was just like, no, I'm not going down that path. But today's addict, we say we're more fortunate. There's a lot of choices.
Correct.
And yes, so people come into 12-step meetings and they are on sometimes medical assisted treatment, drugs. And, I was kind of one of those people who are like, nah, that's not really clean and you should be getting key tags and doing all that. And, over time, I have sort of changed my thinking on that.
Okay.
And part of that is just learning,
Mm-hmm.
being teachable, being open
Mm-hmm.
minded, and kind of
Mm-hmm.
learning about this whole thing called harm reduction,
Mm.
which is like, what, people are dropping dead, and if this is the way to get people in, then we need to do that, right, and not be so rigid
Rigid.
about it and
Yeah.
scared people out of the rooms, right? Because at the end of the day, things are different today. The drugs are out there today. We're not out there when I was coming up.
I
It's like a
agree.
whole other and I know
Fentanyl?
you
Like,
can
what's that?
right, and you can identify with this. Used to be I was the youngest person in the room for
Yeah.
years
Yeah.
in meetings, and now with all these drugs and being so cheap now and accessible and everywhere, we have meetings where average age is like 22 years old. These addicts
Yeah.
are young
And
now,
younger.
right?
Yeah.
So that's something I've kind of like, started to change my thinking on a little bit. And let me just
Okay.
end with this though. The reason why I am so rigid about that sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
it is out of because I know what total freedom from active addiction feels like, right?
Mm-hmm.
To wake up and not need anything,
Yeah.
except coffee, but that's a side issue.
Yeah.
To not need
Yeah.
anything to get out of bed and to feel normal.
Yeah.
That's what I want for. That's what I have, and that's what I want for others. And so my kind of old fashioned thinking about that is only because I don't want addicts to not get the full blessing
I get
of
that.
of what we have to offer through total abstinence, right?
Mm-hmm. I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. I do. I get that. What's a what's a memory you like to relive? Do you have a memory that's when you think about it, you're like, oh, I remember that time. That was a good time. Do you have one of those, good or bad?
Wow.
Well, maybe not a bad one.
What is a good memory I'd like to relive? Man, there's a lot. I mean, that's a good thing to sit here and think, well, wait a minute, I've had a lot of really incredible experiences, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Man, maybe I think when I first traveled overseas
Okay.
and I was with my son, and we were standing in this like cathedral area on this cobblestone street in Spain. And
Mm.
I was like, Michael, we're in Spain right now. Like, it just blew my mind that I had been able to like take a plane and plan something and land somewhere so far away and so
Yeah,
different.
yeah,
It just kind of blew my mind, right? Like coming from, really nothing, coming
yeah.
from food stamps, Section 8,
Ooh, I
like
know it.
taking the bus, barely making ends meet, for years to the years of sort of like the struggle of like keep doing the right thing, just keep doing the right thing, and showing up, showing up, showing up,
Yeah,
and then to like have those moments where you feel like, yeah, this really paid off, like this was
yeah,
so worth all the struggle to be able to
yeah.
experience this, right? I've
Mm-hmm.
had a lot of those are
That's
good.
absolutely
Yeah,
beautiful story.
yeah,
Absolutely, I got goosebumps
yeah.
just imagining that feeling because I know, that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is a good question that I like to describe a spiritual awakening that you've experienced.
Yeah. Well, I will share this story that is sort of recent, so it's kind of top of mind, but it's kind of tied to your other question about the lies we tell ourselves or start we believe and something we tell ourselves and then we start believing in ourselves and then we have no real touch of reality. But something did happen between my mother and I recently. She lives really far away from me, and so I don't see her very often.
Okay.
She made this comment about back when I was young and using. And she said, well, and she kind of let it slip where she was like, yeah, like when I called child protective on you.
Wow.
Right? And I was like, wait a minute. I don't remember hearing that part of the story, right? Like I had not ever, I don't think she ever had told me that when I was 23 years old, I was selling dope, out the house, totally unmanageable, like constant stream of people in and out, dope boys on the couch. I mean, just the whole thing, right?
Right.
And here with a newborn baby.
Wow.
Just hot mess. And so someone had called on me, and I never knew it was her. I always assumed it was this damn donkey. Yeah. On me, like all these people, like
wow.
And it was my own mother.
Wow.
And so that was a really hard. I had carried a lot of resentment with her for some years, just about how hard our relationship's been. And it's gotten way better, obviously with time and more maturity on my end, right? Yeah. But to think back at that, Nicole, and to say, wow, like at first I was a little bit like, what? Like that was you? Yeah. But then next moment, if that wouldn't have happened, I'd be dead. Yeah. I mean, my son would be, it was truly the intervention that kicked off the domino effect of me then getting police in my house saying you are going away for a very long time and you won't see your son, and and then given 24 hours to leave town. This was in New York, landing in Cincinnati. Wow. And having child protective meet me on a doorstep in Madisonville within 2 hours of me landing here, saying we're taking your son and so you can get some help. Wow. Yeah, so that's how I got here. Wow. And all of that had to start somewhere. For us as addicts, I'll just say for me, it usually takes powers greater than ourselves, right? Because of our own, we are unable to get our shit together, usually. I mean, that's usually our story, is we need outside help, to get us to finally, and I'm just speaking as a person now who has other people. Like if you have someone in your life who continues to use, and it's just baffling. Yeah, yeah. Like how are they? Like their life is a mess. They got legal problems. They got kids. You have to take care of your kids. How do you do this? Yeah, yeah. I don't even understand it. It is hard to understand. Mm-hmm. But when you're the addict in that position, it's like you don't see it that way. No. The denial is so deep that you're like, I'm cool, everything's fine. Yeah. 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 And we're the last ones to figure it out usually. The last. Like you are a mess. Wow. And you need outside help. Right? Wow. So anyway, that's a long story to say. No, the spiritual awakening was like, okay, that was my mother who did that. Yeah. And to then be accepting of that and not angry. Yeah. But to be actually grateful. Yeah. And that took a long time. Ooh wee. Yeah. Great story. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Oh my God. And I was thinking as you were talking, the amount of nerve that it had to take your mom to make a call on her daughter, not knowing what would happen, but she knew she had to do something. Yeah. That took a whole lot of courage on her part, a whole lot of, I know she went probably back and forth, but just looking at it from that perspective, right? I know it was a lot on her too, but I'm so glad you shared that story. Yeah. Beautiful. So yeah, thank you for sharing that story. Yeah. So we at the Grace of India. My guest today is a Beacon.
I don't know no vegan dishes to cook. You know, we can cut corners with food, but we don't cut corners with recovery. So the dish that we ordered was called a goo gobi, and it's potatoes cooked with cauliflower along with onions and tomato sauce. Really good, and naan bread. Okay, so who's been the biggest influence in your life?
The biggest influence. Well, I have to say it was a former boss I had. She she was really a tough cookie, right?
Mm-hmm.
She grew up in Kentucky and like in some holler somewhere, like poor, worked her butt off in
Mm-hmm.
factories, and
Mm-hmm.
when I met her, she was in the sort of second half of her career, and she had started doing union organizing, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she was just such a strong woman, really big on demanding what we deserve, in the workplace as
Gotcha.
women, and just being tough, walking in the room with total confidence, and just watching that and knowing where
Yeah.
she had come from and her struggle, and just learning from her that, like, when you walk into a room and you might feel like, oh, I don't belong here, or these people have money and I don't, and all of that nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
No, she didn't let none of that. She was like, I'm here, I know why I'm
Wow.
here, and I got business
Good for
here, right? And
her.
just being real confident.
Mm-hmm.
And so I learned a lot from her just watching that.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds amazing. I would
Yeah.
like to meet her. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. So let me ask you this. What's something small that you're proud of,
Mm-hmm.
but nobody else probably would even notice it?
Wow, that's a good question. Small that other people might not notice. Huh. Well, I got kind of a silly thing. I have a tattoo.
Let me say.
And this is my little tattoo. And
Yeah.
it's pretty big. So for years, I had wanted one, but I was scared because I don't like pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, it's gonna hurt. And mostly you can't see it unless I wear short sleeves. But it was kind of a big deal for me because it was like one of those things that I got to step out on some faith, and like I designed it myself. It has meaning to it, so I put a lot
Absolutely.
into it, and yeah, it was just it symbolized something where I was kind of afraid, but I stepped out and said, no, you know what? Let me have some courage here and really do this. And so now I'm kind of like, I feel good about it. Now, of course, nowadays, I've seen, it feels like everybody has tattoos nowadays, but I
Mm-hmm.
come
I
from an
know.
era where
I know.
women didn't really
Taboo.
get
Yeah.
tattoos much, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, it's just a little thing, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I like it. I like it. If you could give your younger self
Hmm.
advice, what would it be?
Right. Well, I think we had a conversation before about this, and I jokingly said, "Lift with the legs, not with the back," right? Because over time, I was always like one of. I think a lot of addicts are like this. We're kind of invincible. We think we're just gonna survive anything because
We
we have,
have.
we have, right? We've literally survived, daily near death experiences, right? Like
Hmm.
putting ourselves in constant
Mm-hmm.
danger
Mm-hmm.
kind of makes you
Mm-hmm.
over time feel like you're invincible, or just like whatever. Okay, a car almost hit me. Now, as I get older, now I'm like, okay, let me look both ways. I'm gonna get hit by a car, like a lot more careful and recognizing my mortality. So, oh gosh, I forgot the original question.
No, no, you're good. You're actually you're answering it. It's just what would you
Oh yeah,
tell
tell
your
your younger self,
mm-hmm.
right? Well, I was saying, be careful, crazy woman. No, I did live like dangerously. I'm really, fortunate to have survived my own choices. But I did, you know, I had to deal with a lot when I got here. I had hepatitis, like A, B, C, D, F, G. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I had
Mm-hmm.
to like. It took some years to recover from my using. Fortunately, they came out with medicines more recently, and I no longer have hepatitis C. But I
Yeah.
had it for decades, clean,
Yeah.
because it's the kind of virus. It's a virus,
Yeah.
and if you don't take care of it, it will eventually kill your liver, right? So as recovering addicts, there's a lot of areas that we have to like take care of or fix
Mm-hmm.
from our
Youth.
crazy wild days
Mm-hmm.
out there being crazy. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
No, I get it.
yeah.
I get it. I get it. So this is like the question that I like to wrap up, um,
Mm,
and it's really the reason for the show. We're not therapists, but we are therapeutic.
yeah.
We have had a lot of experience, so
Mm,
we want to help people.
yeah.
You might be going through it, so we want to help you. So this next question is,
Mm,
what advice would you give someone who's watching this who might be struggling with
yeah.
their addiction or, you know, not knowing whether to stop or keep going? What advice would you give
Yeah.
them? You can look right in the camera and let them know.
Well, I would say believe. Believe that this thing works. Nowadays, there is more evidence than ever that people can live a full, long life completely abstinent. And
Mm-hmm.
beyond that, a life of recovery, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, total abstinence early on felt really depressing to me. Like, what do you mean? I don't get to have
Do
fun
nothing.
and use?
Mm-hmm.
Because it was, of course, in the beginning it was fun until it wasn't, right? But you have to understand that there's a lot of us out here that do live a life of recovery, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it is possible for anyone, but you got to do the work and you
Absolutely.
got to commit to the total abstinence piece. And
Absolutely.
I got to tell you that in the beginning, I just kind of focused on just for today. Let me just do what I'm supposed to do today. And guess what? 28 plus years later,
Mm-hmm.
I still do that with my recovery. I say, I'm just going to stay clean today. That's all I got to worry about. And soon your days will turn into weeks, and your weeks will turn into months. And there'll be a moment where even thinking about using just sounds crazy. Why would I want
Yeah.
to do that to myself
Yeah.
and the people who love me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now,
Absolutely.
that can take a while to get there, but we promise it does come,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
So just hold on. It does get better. It will get better
Yeah.
without your permission, and don't cheat yourself of what your dreams could be.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen people's dreams come true time and again, in the
Mm-hmm.
12 step world, man. I mean,
Absolutely.
I have my own experience of my own
Yeah.
dreams coming
Absolutely.
true.
Absolutely.
When I was a newcomer, kind of started getting back into college, we had some assignment where we were to vision what did we want for ourselves professionally, right? It was a visioning exercise. What is your fantasy job? What is that thing that you would love to do? And I wrote it out. And you know what? A couple years later, the professor that read it linked me up with an internship at City Hall. And I got to work for a vice mayor for 4 years because
Yeah.
I had said, I want to do change. I want to do policy change. Where did I learn that?
Yeah.
Policy Committee of Narcotics Anonymous.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
was like, oh, this is where the rules are set. That's
Yeah.
what I like, right?
Yeah.
Who's running this? Oh, it's
Yeah.
policy. Okay, that's where the power is. That's how we
Yeah.
make change, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, you got to put it out in the universe. Claim what you want, and get it, right?
Absolutely.
You
That's
can get
powerful.
it. It can take
Absolutely.
years, maybe, before you get there. But yeah,
Absolutely powerful.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for saying yes to the
Mm-hmm.
show. Thank you for all of the insight, and that kind of concludes Chop It Up.
Chop it
But
up.
yeah, stay tuned.